Hello, everybody. My name is Maya Joy Kana, and in today's video, I would love to discuss the topic of how to feel content, how to feel happy around unhappy people. And I want to thank one of my subscribers, Amber, for giving me the topic of this video, for emailing me this topic about a week ago. And I just want to say, if anybody has a topic for a video that you would like me to make, please do feel free to email it to me. And I love it if you can actually state what you would like the video to be titled when you email me. And my email address is in the description box below. So anyway, just a few introduction points here as we go throughout this discussion. I just want to say that the intention of this video is to offer guidance about how to feel content around people that are unhappy sort of chronically. You know, maybe you have that friend, loved one, coworker, whoever in your life, and they're sort of chronically unhappy or a little bit lower vibration. So this video is not exactly designed for offering guidance on how to stay happy or content around people that are unhappy for really legitimate reasons. And so what I mean by that is that there are real reasons for people to be unhappy, and certainly these tips will work as well in a lot of those cases. But let's say you're around somebody and they're unhappy because they're actually in a state of mental or spiritual or physical crisis, like they've just broken their arm or something, or they're having a mental breakdown or something like that. In those cases, I do recommend, as an empath, this video is designed mostly for empaths or deeply feeling people. I do recommend, as an empath, if you're around somebody and they're unhappy because they're in an actual state of crisis, that you do intervene and try to help them, okay? Because what we're going to be talking about in this discussion today kind of veers away from that direction, but in the case that somebody's, just chopped off their hand or something, please don't use this guidance. Please call 911 or somehow intervene to help the person, okay? Now, anyway, so all you beautiful empaths out there, as you know, as empaths, basically, the gift is that we are able to perceive in our own experience, within our own emotional, physical, mental sphere, the actual energies that another person is putting off, particularly emotional energies. And today we're going to be talking about how thought patterns actually have an emotional signature to them and how we can use this to our benefit to feel content when we're around someone that's unhappy. But empathy is really, really meant to be a gift. To be an empath is a very special thing, and it is very much a gift that we're meant to be able to utilize in this world at our discretion to help in the healing process for society. And also to help in our own evolution, because being an empath is almost like being able to have a billion lifetimes in one lifetime, because instead of just experiencing your own personal thoughts, feelings, sensations in your own body that only belong to you, you're able to actually tune into anyone across time or space, even people that are all the way across the world. You can tune into what they're experiencing. And so actually, as empaths, we benefit a lot from this gift in terms of our ability to be able to grow in our experience. We really are getting a very unique take on life, and I think it's just super helpful for us to remain in a space of gratitude for that. However, in order to have quality of life as an empath, we've got to learn how to manage this gift. Now, I believe we all receive training from our guides, angels, and the higher realms before we come to Earth about how to manage this gift, but sometimes we forget over time. And what I want to talk today is about how we can manage this gift as an empath in a way that's empowering for us and allows us to have a quality of life and doesn't just constantly pull us down into feeling unhappy all of the time. And if you're interested in this topic, you may also be interested in a recent series, a 14-day series that I put out with lifestyle tips for empaths with one tip for each day. And I'll link that down below in the description as well. But the number one tip, the first day's tip, and this is really key for this topic today, was emit, don't absorb. So in the Empath lifestyle series, we discovered that as empaths, it's really important for us to emit our frequency. We have a special gift for being able to essentially amplify and amplify emotional frequencies, and also to almost diffuse borders between the aura of ourself and others. And a lot of empaths only realize that this works in one direction. So a lot of empaths think, well, yeah, I know I have a diffuse aura or whatever because other people's auras affect me, right? So that's essentially like us having auras that are not, I don't want to say that they're less strong, they're just more sensitive auras. That's why I use the term diffuse. Like there's a little more space for other energies to be experienced by us. However, what a lot of people don't realize as empaths is that this can work in the other direction too. So our energy is actually lighter, and it can actually move into the auras of other people. So as empaths, one way to benefit the world really a lot is to actually focus on emitting a frequency that's positive into the world, and therefore we're actually putting the energy, we're sort of pushing, if you will, or radiating the energy outward. So the energy is moving away from us. A positive energy is moving away from us into the fields of other people, as opposed to the whatever it so happens to be energy of other people moving into our field, if that makes sense. So here are some strategies, taking that into account. Here are some strategies for feeling content when you're around somebody who is putting off a frequency of unhappiness and is not in a state of emergency. Okay? So the first principle I want to discuss today is that in order to feel content here as an empath in the world, and maintain a sense of contentment, it's very key for us to know what our frequency is. So I was just talking about the importance of emitting a frequency that's a match for our being rather than absorbing the frequencies of others. Because when we absorb or take in another person's energy into our field, we're not really helping that much. We're not helping as much as we could if we're more so focusing on filling the space that we're in with our frequency. However, in order to do this authentically, to actually authentically emit a frequency through most of the time throughout our life, whenever we're feeling well, right, we must know what our actual frequency is. And this is sometimes easier said than done. A lot of empaths go their whole life feeling the frequencies of others. They can clearly tell you, oh, this is the energy of my mom, this is the energy of my dog, this is the energy of my best friend. But then you ask them, and your frequency? What's your frequency? And they're like, I have no idea. I don't know. I'm not so sure. And so the first thing you've got to do to thrive as an empath is know what your frequency is. What is your particular frequency that you came here to offer the world? So for me, I have a couple different ones depending on my level of vitality at any given time. But my higher frequency, of my soul that I came here to offer is one of joy and enthusiasm and empowerment. And so what I offer when I go out into the world, I go out into a space, a shopping center, a group of friends, a family gathering, is that it's joy, enthusiasm, empowerment. I also find in more of a sense of quieter moments in my life, or when my vitality isn't as high or I'm tired or something like that, I can also offer another frequency that is true to my soul, which is one of peace and harmony, just the energy of peace. But where you need to start, if you're listening to this here as you go about your day, is really knowing when you're feeling like yourself, when you're feeling in alignment with your soul, what is your frequency? Okay, everything else flows from there. What is it as an emotional signature? Okay, so it may not be joy, enthusiasm, empowerment like it is for me. Yours could be any number of things. It could be serenity. It could be a profound energy of love. It could be anything, but just know what is your frequency that feels like it's you, that feels like it's coming from your soul, that you would like to emit. Okay, that's so once you know what that is, then you're ready to move into the world and navigate these tricky situations related to being around unhappy people. Okay, so what frequency are you going to be emitting? What is your frequency? Now, the reason why this is the starting place for our discussion today is because in order to actually know if another person is unhappy around you, or to know what is you, like, or somebody else, you've got to, essentially, it's Mercury retrograde, you guys. Sorry if this is confusing, but like, you don't actually know if you're the unhappy one or not unless you know what your frequency is. So it's really important for you to be aware of what your frequency is, what your state of wellness is, in order to discern what you're experiencing around you. So like when I go throughout the world, I am a psychic by profession now, and I feel a lot in the world. You know, every person that I walk past, every person I make eye contact with, even for an infinitesimally small instant, I'm hit with their energy. And that can be very confusing if I'm not keeping in my awareness, my understanding of what my frequency is. So I'm like, okay, my natural state, my healthy state is contentment, joy, empowerment, ease. Right now I'm feeling despair. Okay, is that me? No. Okay, right now I'm feeling anxiety. Is that me? No. But the only way I know that it's not me is because I know what is me. Okay, so you got to focus on what is you. So anyway, so let's say that you experience an emotion akin to unhappiness. The first thing that you want to do in order to thrive is actually I like to call all of these icky emotions, I like to just think of them as just discomfort, okay? Because they feel uncomfortable to us, right? And I find the more that we reflect on like the actual nature of the emotion that we're experiencing from someone else, the more it kind of gets in our field. So whether it's like anger, hatred, fear, anxiety, despair, depression, I like to just be like, okay, somewhere here in my environment, I'm picking up something that's a little uncomfortable. And then what I like to do is I like to state to myself, and I recommend you do the same, but I like to state, okay, right now I am sensing some discomfort, okay? And maybe it literally is coming from someone who's just seething unhappiness, okay? I've certainly experienced that numerous times. So I like to say, okay, this discomfort that I sense, or this whatever that I'm sensing, this is not me. Okay? Very simple, but very powerful. This unhappiness, this discomfort, this is not me. This belongs to someone else and cannot harm me. Okay? So especially if you're a loved one, right? Like let's say you're with your romantic partner and they're very unhappy. Okay. Right now, I'm sensing a discomfort coming from my romantic partner, okay? Or, yes, and this discomfort, though I am able to perceive it, it belongs to my partner and not me, and it cannot harm me. I'm just simply perceiving it because of my gift, okay? So that's like SOS, like that's in the first thing, right? Is, okay, I sense this. This is not me. This belongs to, if you know who it belongs to, you can state that in your awareness, or otherwise you don't even need to know. This belongs to someone else and it cannot harm me. Okay? And the next place where you go from there, right? Like once you've mastered that, start out there. Start out knowing your frequency, and then start out just simply being able to state when you're around people that are in a different vibration that doesn't feel comfortable, just this is not me and this cannot hurt me. This is not me and this cannot hurt me, okay? From there, the next sort of skill that you want to develop as an empath is the skill to be able to compassionately actually listen to or observe another person's unhappy thoughts and worries without taking them in and believing them yourself. Okay, so where we get in trouble with empaths is in emphasizing to the point that we actually take on the negative beliefs of whoever we're with or around at any given time. Now, people that are chronically unhappy, okay, a lot of times, almost all the time, the reason that they are experiencing chronic unhappiness is because they are actually thinking things that make them feel unwell. So they're repeatedly thinking thought patterns that are disempowering or place them as the victim or things like that. Now, to be fair, most chronically unhappy people are not exactly aware that they're doing this, and or they are not presently ready to accept responsibility for doing this, okay? They may have gotten these thought patterns that are making them feel unwell. They may have picked them up themselves from loved ones, from television, from books, from some other place, and they may be unconsciously playing out these unhappy thought patterns within their own mind and body without even really realizing that they're within them. Regardless, though, what we need to keep in mind as empaths is that matching our thought vibrations or our beliefs to the other person, though it comes really natural to us as an empath because our auras are more diffuse, right? And we can just like catch vibes as we can just catch them, you know, in our own field. Although it comes natural for us to catch those thought patterns in our field, if we match that other person, let's say they're cycling in thoughts that make them feel unwell, not only will this not help the other person, okay, because our job as empaths is to offer a higher frequency and let the other person decide if they're going to match it or not. So not only will it not help the other person, and not only will us taking on their belief system reinforce their suffering and just validate their victimhood and their suffering, but it will also bring us down. So it's not ever going to be helpful for us to lower our frequency to match somebody else who's in an unhappy state. Very, very, very rarely is that ever going to be the highest path. So we've got to learn, okay, well, geez, how can I listen then? How can I listen neutrally? So we are developing the capacity to learn how to listen to an unhappy person from a neutral space. And what I find really beneficial is to try to withhold any form of judgment or analysis related to what the person says while they're saying it, but just simply to observe to almost detach your energy as you listen to or observe somebody who is unhappy. Some of us are so telepathic that even if the unhappy person isn't speaking to us directly, like let's say that they're speaking to somebody else or they're not even speaking at all, we can still perceive their thought patterns. But the thing is, you want to just observe from a place of curiosity. I have another video which speaks about curiosity as a healing tool. We want to just be curious. Oh, this person says this. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. That's interesting. What you don't want to do is you don't want to get wrapped up in analyzing or judging what the person's saying, or you also don't want to take it in as your personal truth. Just because somebody says that they were victimized by a family member or their life is hopeless or this, that, doesn't mean that it's true. That's simply their way of perceiving reality. So what you want to remind yourself of when you're around somebody who's seething unhappiness is you kind of want to affirm to yourself, right, okay, I get to choose what I believe, and I choose to believe things that make me feel good, okay? And also this person also has free will. They get to choose what they believe, and right now, they may be choosing to believe things that make them feel unwell. However, I or you do not personally have to believe those same things because you get to choose to believe things that make you feel good. And you may need to affirm to yourself, especially at first, like, I am safe here. This person's thoughts, beliefs, energy this has nothing to do with me, right? Like, this is not me. Okay, we need to remind ourselves, like, this is not me, because our fields are orchestrated in a way where that's not always obvious, right? Like, I am safe, this is not me, I choose to believe things that make me feel good, and this person can choose to believe things that make them feel whatever they want. Okay? So you want to sort of state to yourself, okay, if this person chooses to think thoughts that make him or her feel down, then this is their personal choice, and I'm happy for them, okay? Because somehow, some way, this is serving them right now, you know? But I choose loving and peaceful thoughts for myself, okay? So I am choosing to be in a healing role for this person by allowing them to vent their frustrations or their unhappiness or whatever, because that's their free will choice right now. But I, meanwhile, I choose loving and peaceful thoughts for myself. Yeah, you know, because sometimes, like, when we are able to just listen neutrally or observe somebody else's unhappy process without attaching to it, we do offer healing to that person by sort of giving them space to actually hear their own process out loud. Because, like I said, a lot of people don't realize that they are the source of their unhappiness, okay, most of the time, right? Like, people don't realize that, but when we actually don't try to help them, right? Because when you're listening neutrally, you don't actually need, you just listen. You don't need to try to fix it or anything. You don't need to say anything in reply. Just let the person just go on. And a lot of times people will start to hear themselves, and they'll realize, whoa, okay, they'll start to realize, like, when you don't try to help them, they'll start to hear actually what they're saying, and they'll hear their thoughts out loud, and they'll realize, whoa, my thoughts around this are really negative. And you haven't actually done anything. You've just held that space of neutrality, like, for them, and stayed quiet and allowed them to begin their own healing process for themselves. Okay? So what we don't want to do, so a lot of times, like, if you go to a course on listening, or things like that, a lot of times they'll tell you, oh, make sure that you nod and you show agreement to help show your support to the other person. And a lot of us as empaths, we're really attuned to that, and we'll do that. I recommend not doing that. Like, if somebody is extremely unhappy, I recommend not doing that. It's okay to just be there with, like, a neutral expression. You don't need to go out of your way to show agreement to the unhappy person. You don't need to agree with them. It's okay not to agree with them. You know, it's okay. Like, we want to make others comfortable. So if somebody says, oh, this person did this to me, and shame on them, and, you know, my life was in such a bad place, and, you know, why does all this bad stuff happen to me? Like, we can want to say, I'm so sorry, you know, I feel for you so much, and, like, stuff like that. But then we're validating that person's perspective, which ultimately is not, if it's a chronically unhappy person, that's ultimately not going to help them or us in the long term. So you might be wondering, well, Maya, then, how can I show support to somebody? Because I don't want to be a horrible conversationalist. Like, how can I show support to somebody who's expressing unhappiness without agreeing with them? Because we're taught, like, agreement equals love, and that's not necessarily true. So what I find is the best thing, sort of an expression you can always go to. You want to say something in reply. What I recommend saying is, wow, that is a very interesting way of seeing things. So someone might go on for 10, 15, 20 minutes, an hour, 5 hours, and they're just, like, in this state of just seething unhappiness, venting, and then they look to you, and finally, you know, and what do you say? You say, wow, that is a very interesting way of seeing things. And if they ask you, like, why is it interesting, then that's kind of your opening to be able to state a higher way of seeing things. But a lot of times at that point, the person will feel better because they've just been able to get out those thoughts, air them out, and then they've been able to release them, and they'll feel validated. But the good thing is that interesting, when you say that is an interesting way of seeing things, interesting is a very neutral word. The person can take that however they want, you know, because you can think something, it's neutral for you and it's neutral for the other person. And that neutrality is what we're aiming for. We don't actually, I feel like I may have mistakenly put in too much judgment into this sort of section of the discussion, but you don't actually want to judge that person's thoughts and say their thoughts are wrong. They're not. Their thoughts are just their thoughts at this given moment, and we all experience various different states of consciousness, and we all go through times where our thoughts are not as loving or high vibrational as they could be. But you just want to focus when the person's talking, oh, this is interesting way of seeing things. Interesting. And that's what you want to say in reply to them. That was a very interesting way of seeing things. When you state that, you open up the possibility within that person's awareness that there are other ways of seeing things without having to lecture them on higher ways of seeing things, right? It's just that's an interesting way of seeing things. Okay, the next principle to help you feel content around unhappy people is I really want to state this one, is avoid analyzing or fixing the problem. Okay? One thing that we often get confused about as empaths is we often feel like it's our responsibility to help and fix with everything. One thing that we need to remind ourselves of is that if a person doesn't ask us for help, it's not in the highest good to help them, okay? So if we can want to help everybody who seems like they're in a state of suffering, but if they don't ask you for help, you don't necessarily need to try to help them. But you might be thinking, but sometimes I feel within my heart a desire to help someone. And that's good. That's your intuition working for you. So let's say you feel that desire to help someone very strongly. What you need to do is you need to ask the person if they want your help. Okay? And if they are not sure or they say no, do not try to help them. Okay? Because sometimes we get pulled down by unhappy people and it's kind of our fault because we're kind of trying to lift them up and they didn't even ask us to lift them up. And very few people are asking, very, very few of the unhappy people in this world are actually asking us to make them happy. Okay? So if somebody asks you for help, which I think is pretty rare. Usually when people are unhappy, they are, in some sense, some part of their being is choosing that state of unhappiness and often doesn't want to feel better, especially when it's chronic unhappiness. That's something deeper. But let's say the chronically unhappy person is wow, you're so happy and content. How can I feel that way? Then that's a longer term project where you can help them to actually shift their belief systems, and that's what we're going to close with in today's discussion is what beliefs will actually make you and the other person feel better. But otherwise, you don't need to help them. So we need to let go of this idea that we need to fix other people's unhappiness to build them up. We don't. As long as we know how to go to our personal frequency and return to our frequency, then we can just emit that and we can feel fine without changing the people around us. But yes, okay. So you want to ask, I'm noticing here that you're not so happy right now. Would you like me to help you? Or let's say that this is a close friend or something. So you've said, wow, that's a really interesting way of seeing things. Would you like to know what I would do if I were in your shoes? Okay. And they might say no. They might be Maya, no, I don't want to know. Okay. And then cool. Then you don't have to do anything. Another thing, let's say you really want to help the person, but you don't know what to do. Okay. And one thing that'll really pull you into other people's analysis or other people's unhappiness is analysis. It's trying to analyze the problem, trying to figure it out for them with your mind. As empaths, we're not here to solve people's problems with our minds. A lot of us are highly intelligent and have gifted minds, but we're actually here to offer assistance through emotional and intuitive means. So one thing that I recommend is somebody may be coming to you and they want you to analyze with them and they actually want to amplify the unhappiness and just get into the nitty gritty. You don't want to do that. You want to remain detached. And so one loving thing that you can say to the person is, I'm not sure the solution to your circumstance right now, but if any solutions come to me, I'll be sure to let you know. And then you want to consciously let this go, let the other person's problem go, and sort of relegate it to your unconscious mind, and just state to your guides, the universe, whatever, if I'm meant to help this person, please bring the solution to me through intuitive channels with no effort whatsoever. like just make it effortless. Effortlessly bring me the answer when the time is right. And you may very well actually like go home that night and have a dream or something like that with a solution and then share it. But the point is you don't want to take on the laborious role of super analyzing the other person's problem and trying to fix it for them. Okay, unless they explicitly said, please help me, I know you're the one to help me, and then you decide and realize you can still say no. Even if somebody asks you to cure their unhappiness, you can say no, or you can say, I don't know how to do that right now, but if a solution should come to me, and then you're setting the intention that it will come to you intuitively, if the solution will come to me, I'll let you know. Okay, so let's say you want to help because you really do care and you want the other person to feel better, but you don't want to feel worse in the process. The best thing that you can do is ask a higher being to intervene on behalf of that person. A lot of people have the understanding that we're not able to ask it for angelic support for anyone besides ourselves or things like that. That's not my understanding. I have found whenever I ask the angels to intervene, for example, and support or help another person, they always do. So you can definitely, like, whatever higher power that you believe in, call on that higher power to support the other person and uplift them. And that's a very good way to help that person without having to do it yourself, So I will often, even if it's a stranger, even if they're profoundly unhappy and they're like completely on the other side of the sidewalk from me or something, or the other side of the street, but I still can perceive their unhappiness, I'll just ask, like, dear angels, please intervene on behalf of this person that I see on the other side of the sidewalk. Please help them to remember and feel like the loving presence of the universe in their heart again. Please take away any stress, any suffering, any unhappiness that they no longer need and replace it with peace or contentment or whatever it is. But ask. You'll feel better, most likely, if you ask a higher power to intervene on behalf of that person, because you were aware of their suffering and you may feel that that means something. So ask a higher power to intervene, but don't try to fix it yourself unless you really have a profound knowing of how to fix it, okay? Now, the final part of this process, and this is key, to actually feel content around unhappy people, is to renew positive thinking within your own stream of thought, because you may be getting the thought vibrations of the other person or their emotional vibrations like coming into your field. So you want to renew your positive thinking, and if they've pulled you into a state of super analysis of their problems, you also want to shift back into a more harmonious state of mind. So first, let's talk about how to renew positive thinking. Okay, so let's say you're just leaving a situation, or you're even presently in a situation with a really unhappy person. What kind of thoughts can you think to yourself so that you don't sort of catch the thought vibes of that person, the lower thought vibes, right? My favorite go-to is all is well and everything is unfolding exactly as it should, including this person's current vibrational state. All is well and everything is unfolding as it should. Another helpful affirmation to help you to feel content is, this person's feelings are just right for them at this time on their path. This person's feelings are just right for them at this time on their path. It's kind of about letting go of the idea that if someone is unhappy, something is wrong. Maybe someone's unhappy and something is very right. Maybe this is the perfectly right for them right now on their path. Okay? Another thing that you can affirm that will help the other person is, I know that this person is going to grow and flourish as a soul. No matter what state they're in this moment when they're around you, you can just affirm to yourself, I know this person is going to grow and flourish as a soul. And that vibration of this thought that's in your field will become available to them, and they can choose to match it if they want or not. Another positive affirmation to renew an energy of wellness within your field is, it's okay for others to feel unhappy sometimes. It happens to all of us, but for me today, I choose contentment. It's perfectly okay for others to feel unhappy sometimes. It happens to all of us, but for me today, I choose contentment. Yes? Similarly, by being content or at peace myself, I offer this space a higher energy. By being content, I offer this space a higher energy. You can literally be you can be in a room completely filled with people in fear and unhappiness and just affirm to yourself, yeah, by being content myself in this moment, I offer this space a higher energy. And it will really help you to feel good, and you really will offer the space a higher energy. Another thing to remind yourself, analyzing this person's problem isn't necessary. If the solution is within me, my intuition will bring it forward effortlessly in perfect timing. Analyzing this person's problem isn't necessary. If the solution lies within me, my intuition will bring it forward effortlessly in perfect divine timing. And finally, like a renewed positive thought is, life is beautiful and there is good in all things. So often, like when you're with somebody who's feeling really unhappy, they're offering you a lot of beliefs around the ideas, sort of like things are wrong with the world, life is bad, stuff like that. So you can balance it with just reminding yourself, life is beautiful and there's good in all things. Even if we don't see that right now, there's good in all things. Life is beautiful. Yeah, so those are some helpful thoughts. Too, because we really, like, our emotional states are highly influenced by our thoughts. So you really, like, it sounds cliche just to say, like, think positive, but it works, you guys. Like, it works to, when it's not a crisis situation, our hand is not chopped off, or we're not super, we're not starving of hunger, or this, that, or the other things, like, but we're feeling unwell, shifting our thoughts, reminding ourselves all is well and everything is unfolding perfectly. Life is beautiful and there's good things in all, there's good in all things. And, this person's feelings are right for them right now. I know they're going to grow and flourish as a soul. You will feel better thinking these things. And another thing that you can do if you've gotten pulled into analysis, right, is focus on shifting into a more creative, intuitive state of mind. So a couple ways you can do this really quickly. Just observe. Like, observe something beautiful in your environment. There's always something beautiful around. There's always, it could be the simplest thing. It could be you look down at your shoelace and the reflective sort of part of your shoelace is reflecting a tiny beam of light, and that sparkle of light reminds you of a higher power, reminds you of God, source, something. It could be anything. But just like look for something beautiful around you, anything at all, or something nice or something neutral, or just like, but bring your full focus to something in your environment, or somewhere within, something that you can focus on in your own awareness, like a wonderful, happy memory that makes you smile. Another thing is breathe. Like, take a deep breath, a breath of peace, a breath of love. Like, breathe in deeply, breathe in the energy of love, release out with your exhale the energy of peace. Like, that will help. Think about, like, the happiest moment of your life. Visualize that, like, the happiest moment of your life. Or even, like, play a song in your mind that makes you feel great. Like, one that comes to mind for me is the song, like, Walking on Sunshine. Like, I don't know, that's just one that comes up for me. Or that song, Happy. But, like, whatever it is for you, just, like, play that, vibe out to that, and that will help to shift you into a more creative state of mind. But you absolutely, it does take a little bit of practice as empaths and highly sensitive people, but you absolutely can learn to feel content no matter how much of a negative environment that you are in at any given time. And I feel blessed in a way because I actually, like, grew up around, in a family of 4 with 2 people who were super, super high in Cancerian energy and really incredibly moody and often very, very down and often just very cry, very victim-y. And I struggled with it a bit especially when I was really little. But because of that, because of the chronic unhappiness in my environment, and also, this is an aside, but also my house was haunted and there had been murders there. So the house itself was emanating a lower vibration. But because of growing up in that environment, I had to learn these skills. I had to actually learn these skills at a very young age. Even as a toddler, I had to for my own survival. So I sort of learned, okay, this loved one of mine is very much in a lower state. I didn't have the term lower vibration at the time, but just understanding, they're making me feel uncomfortable. So what can I do to feel how can I feel okay and not be taken down by this? And so I started just experimenting with stuff when I was really, really little. And that's how I learned this stuff. That's I used to think of I used to be around the negativity and stuff like that. And I would just think of the Disney castle and stuff when I was really little, or I would think of just how beautiful. I would think of oh my gosh, what would it be like to meet Cinderella and stuff like that. And I would realize I felt good when I went to this place in my mind. I would feel good. And I would, it helped me to actually develop a relationship with my guides and angels when I was really young, because I would ask, my angels, can you fix this? I don't know what to do. Can you fix this? And, they would. And then things would start getting better, and I started to remind myself, everything happens for a reason. This is happening for a reason right now. And I started to realize, I can be good. I can be content. I can be okay, even if the people around me are not as okay, or not feeling as good right now. And so what I'm giving you today, what I've brought you today, this is a much bigger topic that we can talk about more in the future, and maybe I will if you guys want me to. But this comes from 30 years of experience in being a very highly sensitive empath and psychic, and navigating through this world where a lot of people are often feeling down. So whatever stuck out to you in today's discussion, give it a try. Try these strategies for yourself. See how they work. Let me know how they're working for you. Share your experience as an empath in the comments below. We love to build community here amongst other empaths and highly sensitive people. And as always, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time to listen today. What an honor it is to know that you've taken time out of your day to tune into this message that I am sharing. That really humbles me, so thank you for being here. If you liked this, come back by. Stop by again on the Maya's Dream channel. I put out videos at least once a week, usually on Friday or Saturday. So love to have you back here again, and I'm wishing you the most amazing day today. Go out there, emit your particular frequency of goodness, offer it up to the world, and know that you've done something incredible with your life in being who you are. So thank you so much for listening today. Many blessings to you, and namaste.